Gabrielle Union. When we see her now, we see the polished actress, the flawless smile, the red carpets. But what we don't always see is the 19-year-old girl who was broken in ways that don't heal easy. Let's rewind. Gabrielle Union wasn't just some Hollywood starlet who stumbled into fame. She was a young black woman working in retail, figuring out life. And one night, working at Payless Shoe Source of all places, her entire world was ripped apart. She was raped at gunpoint. Let that sit. A teenager, a job, a paycheck, and suddenly trauma that would shadow her forever. Most folks don't realize what that kind of violation does. It doesn't end when the assault ends, it seeps into everything: relationships, friendships, your sense of safety, your sense of self. Gabrielle said it herself. She learned to always be on guard, to never fully exhale. That's the kind of survival a lot of us understand, even if our trauma looked different. The aftershocks feel the same. But here's the thing about Gabrielle: she didn't bury it, she didn't swallow it just to make other people comfortable. She sued her rapist. She spoke out, even when the world wasn't ready to hear young black women tell their stories without shame. That decision to take legal action wasn't just about her. It was about making sure silence wasn't the last word. And this is what makes her story matter for us. Gabrielle Union could have taken the path most of us are forced into: hush up, move on, pretend it didn't happen. But instead, she turned her survival into activism. She started speaking openly about her sexual violence. She wrote it in her memoirs, We're Going to Need More Wine, and You Got Anything Stronger. Books that don't just entertain, they open wounds so that other women know they're not alone. If you've ever been through trauma, you know the hardest thing isn't telling others, it's telling yourself. It's admitting, this happened to me. Gabrielle Union didn't just admit it, she broadcast it. And in doing so, she became a mirror for every woman who was told her pain was unspeakable. But she didn't stop at storytelling. Gabrielle Union became a force. She's worked with Planned Parenthood, with Susan G. Komen's Circle of Promise, and with organizations that fight for survivors of domestic and sexual violence. She used her celebrity not as a shield, but as a megaphone. Because let's be real, in a world that shrugs at black women's pain, it takes a celebrity voice to force people to listen. And here's where it gets even more real. Gabrielle Union is brutally honest about how trauma shaped her adulthood. In her books and interviews, she talks about how the grape made her hypervigilant, how it affected intimacy, how it seeped into her marriage. She talks about the therapy, the unlearning, the nights when healing felt impossible. That honesty, that's oxygen for survivors drowning in shame, because it says you don't have to be healed to be worthy. You don't have to be perfect to keep going. Now, let's connect this back to the women watching this, the 35-year-olds raising kids alone, the women who had to survive things they never asked for, the women who feel like poverty and trauma double bind them. Gabrielle's story is your story in different packaging. She was working in retail. She was just trying to make a living. Violence found her, like it finds too many of us. But she took back control by refusing to let silence win. Now, think about this: Gabrielle Union didn't just survive, she thrived. She became a Hollywood powerhouse, a best selling author, a businesswoman. She turned her pain into a platform. That's not to glamorize suffering, it's to prove that trauma doesn't cancel destiny. It may slow you down, it may scar you, but it cannot erase your future. Even today, she continues to show up for survivors. She doesn't just donate quietly, she sits on panels. She speaks raw truth at events. She mentors young women. She opens doors. That's the kind of full circle healing most of us dream of, when your scars become someone else's survival guide. And here's the no chaser takeaway: Gabrielle Union is proof that your lowest moment doesn't define you. That job you hate, that paycheck that doesn't stretch, that night you still replay in your mind, none of that is the period at the end of your sentence. It's just a comma. Gabrielle teaches us that speaking out is strength, that telling your truth, even when your voice shakes, is an act of rebellion. So if you're listening right now and you've got a story sitting on your chest, just like a boulder, hear this. Gabrielle Union cracked open her trauma, and in doing so, she gave other women permission to breathe. Maybe your story isn't for the world. Maybe it's just for your daughter, or your journal, or your God. But don't bury it. Don't let silence be your legacy. Gabrielle Union once said, "Your story is yours to tell, and no one gets to take that from you." That's the lesson. You own it. You survived it. And if you choose, you can turn it into fuel.